Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, the 11th of October 2017, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Brian Gerrish. With me in the studio, Mike Robinson. And we're delighted to be joined today by Mark Anderson, American Free Press. And of course, Mike also runs the Truth Hound blogspot. Well, I'm feeling safer today, Mike, because I understand that David Cameron has been on his travels and that fills me with confidence, but also the government is looking after our safety
online
at all levels.
Absolutely, because they have released their internet safety strategy. Is this anything to do with safety? Well, no, of course not. This is about regulation of the internet, and Britain leading the way on this. They are going to introduce a new social media code of practice, which they describe as a joined up approach to remove or address bullying, intimidating or humiliating online content. They're going to create an industry-wide levy so that social media companies and communication service providers contribute to raise awareness and counter internet harms. So there's going to be a fund for that. There's going to be an annual internet safety transparency report, which is going to show progress on addressing abusive and harmful content and conduct. And it's going to support technology and digital startups to think about safety first, ensuring that necessary safety features are built into apps and products from the very start. So this is fantastic news. Apparently in the past year, because the problem is that a fifth of 12 to 15-year-olds have encountered something online that they found worrying or nasty in some way, and 64% of 13 to 17-year-olds have seen images or videos offensive to that particular group. So there you go. We've got to deal with this nasty content on the internet. We've got to deal with it now. And who's going to do it? Well, it's going to be Secretary of State for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport, Karen Bradley. And she said the internet has been an amazing force for good, but it has caused undeniable suffering and can be an especially harmful place for children and vulnerable people. So that's the problem, and this is what we're going to do about it. This is what she also said. She said that's what we're looking at, to make sure that we do regulate the internet in an appropriate way so that we allow the freedoms that the internet gives you. So let's just look at that again, because this quote I found particularly interesting, Brian. So what they're looking at is to make sure that we, the government, regulates the internet in an appropriate way so that we allow the freedoms, the government allows the freedoms.
Right, this will be the same government that's covering up the abuse of children in Westminster and by former Prime Minister Ted Heath.
Absolutely.
Same people are going to look after us. That's good.
She regurgitated the words of Theresa May when she said the behaviour that is unacceptable in real life is unacceptable on a computer screen. We need an approach to the internet that protects everyone without restricting growth and innovation in the digital economy. So we want to make sure that we censor the internet in such a way that it doesn't affect business, but we've got to make sure that people like the UK Column can't produce the news every day. That's what they're aiming for. Now this is the Green Paper, their internet strategy document, and it sets out, as they say, the government's ambition to create a strong framework that can tackle online harms. All options will be carefully considered while collaborating with industry and charities and supporting children, parents and carers. So this is today's apparently is the first generation of children who are learning about relationships and sex in the online world. So this strategy also outlines the crucial role that education will play. So let's have a quick look at what they're saying here. First of all, new compulsory school subjects, relationship education at primary and relationship and sex education at secondary, to provide online safety education, because that's worked so well, Brian, right? Because only 2 days ago, the BBC was carrying this article, Child on Child Sex Offence Reports, Tip of the Iceberg. And what they were saying was that the reports of sexual assaults by children on other children are rising. The number of reported sexual offences by under 18s against other under 18s in England and Wales rose by 71% from 2013 to 14. From 4,600 in 2013-14 to 7,866 from 2016-17. And this is figures that were given to Panorama through a Freedom of Information request. And the numbers of reported rapes amongst under 18s rose 46% from 1,521 to 2,223. And they're saying that reports of sexual offences on school premises also increased, and they give figures for that as well. Now, I know that there are primary schools in Plymouth that are experiencing this problem, and this is not an uncommon problem now. What's the reason for this, Brian? Could it be perhaps that it's exactly this issue of sexualizing children ever younger through sex education and relationship education that's driving this? Could that be possibly what's going on?
Well, I think many parents would absolutely agree that that is one of the key reasons. And I'll say at the weekend at Ian Crane's event in the Connaught Rooms in London, Graham Downing gave an especially good presentation. And at the end of that presentation, he was actually showing the sort of material that children are now exposed to. And he simply took the music industry. What were children looking at in the 1970s? A lady sat at a piano singing. What are they looking at now? And of course, the BBC, very, very keen to promote highly explicit pop music to ever younger children. Does it have an effect? Undoubtedly. I would certainly say as a parent, it has an effect. I'm sure other people would agree.
Okay, so let's look at what else they're proposing here. Social media safety advice. Government will encourage social media companies to offer safety advice and tools to parents, and safety messages will be built into online platforms. They're saying safety features highlighted. So the government will work to raise awareness around safety products and features that are available for parents. But here's the key one. It is important for children and young people to be aware that not everything they see and read online is real. Being able to distinguish between factual and fabricated content is a critical skill. In an age where children and young people predominantly get their news from social media outlets, it is important that they're given given the skills to critically evaluate the content they're consuming. So what they're saying is that as a matter of course, as a matter of the national curriculum, they're going to make it, they're going to tell children how to identify what is right material and what is wrong material, and they're going to encourage children to only read the right material.
This is Alice in Wonderland stuff, Mike, because of course, at the switch of a button, they could clear the whole internet of extremely unpleasant, highly explicit media material, but also sexual images. That could all be taken off overnight, gone. Why don't they want to do that? Because they're making money out of it. So we're now going to presumably show the children some of these images in order to say, oh, those are the images you don't want to look at.
Well,
and the other bit, sorry, I've just came into my head. Of course, we had the wonderful think tank Demos a couple of years ago was crowing that it was going to have its program, and my goodness, you've got it on screen.
Absolutely. Truth lies in the internet from 2011, and from Demos, a report into young people's digital fluency. That's exactly right. So this is where this policy has come from. Now, the question then is, who is going to manage all this on behalf of the government? Here we have the independent, undoubtedly independent UK Council for Child Internet Safety. And of course, it's not independent. They're not saying it is. I'm being a little bit sarcastic there. But the UK Council for Child Internet Safety is a group of more than 200 organisations drawn from across government, industry, law, academia and charity sectors that work in partnership to help keep children safe online. So the people that are generating the content which the government feels is harmful are also the people that are involved in this to a certain degree for some types of content. So who is involved in this? Well, we've got Apple, we've got the Association of Directors for Children's Services, we've got the BBC Children's Department, we've got the British Board of Film Classification, we've got British Telecom, we've got the Child Exploitation Online Protection Centre, which is part of the Metropolitan Police. We've got the ChildNet International. We've got the Children's Charities Coalition on Internet Safety. We've got the Diana Award. We've got Facebook, Google, the Information Commissioner's Office. We've got a couple of independents on there. We've got Internet Watch Foundation, London School of Economics, Child Protection, National Police Chiefs Council on there as well, NSPCC, which is the National Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Children. We've got Ofcom, we've got O2 and Sky and TalkTalk and Twitter. So these are the organisations that are all going to be involved in making sure that children know what's the right thing to look at when they're on the internet.
So this is everybody apart from any proper representation from the general public. This is participatory democracy where these organisations have simply been chosen to give an opinion. And of course, where they're the charities, where they're the BBC even, those who control the purse control the political opinion. Perhaps we should invite Mark in. You've got a different situation in the States. What do you think of what we're producing here?
It's quite eye-opening. I cannot help but get fixated on what Mike started with, where the British authorities presume to say they're going to grant you internet rights. I mean, right out of the starting gate, they run right up against the fundamental view of what human rights even are. The idea of a pre-existing God-given right is anathema to these people. It's essential that we, right from the start, do not allow the authorities to define what rights are and then how they're quote unquote distributed. So whatever the details might be, it's amazing how fundamentally flawed their argument and their system is. I will say that.
So bringing this right back to the beginning, Brian, then, the government is going to push, with its Green Paper and subsequent legislation, is going to push into the education system the skills that our children need to identify what's right and what's wrong on the internet.
Yeah.
And undoubtedly, BBC Reality Check is going to be on the right side of that, yeah?
Oh, of course, because the BBC told me very clearly in the telephone call that I really shouldn't be concerned that I didn't know who the journalist was because they worked for the BBC, and if they worked for the BBC, then that's fine. I did actually mention Jimmy Savile and said, well, the BBC journalists weren't entirely honest over Jimmy Savile, but the lady wasn't too keen on talking about that subject. Now, if you would like to learn more about vaccines and the dangers of vaccines, then I'm going to suggest that you get this very effective book by Christina England. Christina, of course, is a mother who took the trouble to really educate herself about vaccines, and she's been working with trained professionals such as Lucia Tomljanovic. So this is a lady trained in medicine and vaccine type issues, and we've got a foreword to this book by Dr. Michael D. Innes. So this is not just what a mother thinks, this is what a mother discovered. This is facts and information backed up by deep medical analysis and comment as well. And I've put on screen just the opening part of the book because I think this tells us all. Part one is legalized kidnapping of children by the state, effectively, possibly the largest vaccine cover-up the world has ever seen. And chapter one begins with the heading, Vaccination and Corruption in Government. So if you haven't got a copy of this book and you're concerned about vaccines, I think you should get it. Christina England you can find on the internet, and she is still doing absolutely tremendous work warning both mums and dads about the dangers of some vaccines, at least to children. I'll just end by saying I did also mention the subject of epilim to the BBC press officer and pointed out that there are some 37,500 damaged children in the UK as a result of that drug. And this, of course, is another story that the BBC simply refuses to publish because the BBC, of course, is in bed both with the government and with the big pharmaceutical production companies. So there we are, the gross insult from the BBC. We will print the false information. It can be false, of course, as with that article, by omission of facts. But don't you worry, the BBC is looking after the safety of you and your family.